All right, so in the last video, I just kind of gave an overview of maybe a caution to potential homeowners of the ins and outs of getting solar panels, the positives and negatives of it. What I'm going to address in this video is some of the more used car salesman-y tactics that I've heard directly from homeowners used by solar sales reps. So I want to go through some of these and kind of point out what you should focus on so you don't get the wool pulled over your eyes and end up making a bad decision. So what I did is I created this whiteboard, and this is with a scenario that literally I walked through this with a homeowner friend of mine, and this kind of models the way it was pitched to him. So they tend to focus, again, they'll go door to door. Solar salesmen, peak months are May through October. So they're knocking on your door when you're seeing these really high energy bills. And that's kind of the sense of urgency that they're using to get their foot in the door and to pitch the solar panels. So they'll start off with, hey, you just had a $485 a month electric bill, and that's actually not a huge amount. If you're in a larger house here in North Texas in June, July, August, I mean, I've easily seen $800, $1,000, $1,200 just energy bill, right? But let's use a smaller house for example. So say, hey, you just had a $485 energy bill this month. That's really high, right? You don't like that, and it's showing that you paid $39.84 for the past year, right? So off the bat, they're starting off with the highest. They're not using the average monthly payment. They're starting out at the high to alarm you. And you're saying, oh, you paid all this, and that was at 24,900 kilowatt hours, which you paid 16 cents a kilowatt hour. So right here, I want to stop at two things. That instead of focusing on this, you should focus on the average. And right here, if you're paying 16 cents a kilowatt hours for over 24,000 kilowatt hours, chances are you can switch to a plan that's going to pay you lower. So without dealing with solar at all, you can lower your energy bill. So that's one thing to consider. So then we move over to column 2, right? Now, in the future, based on whatever data they have, based on the size of the system, they're going to measure your roof, and they're going to say, we can fit this many solar panels on, and with this amount of average sunlight, we're going to produce this much energy, and we're going to get your payments down to $152 a month average, right? So not the peak, they're kind of lining that up with this. So this looks like $133 less, $333 less than this. But over here, they're doing your highest bill. Over here, they're doing an average, right? So, that's another point to, make sure we're apples to apples. And then your total is going to be $1,824 a year based on 15,200 kilowatt hour at 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So again, now we're not doing apples to apples because this was all based off of 16 cents a kilowatt hour. This was based off of 12 cents a kilowatt hour. And then one thing they'll throw on top is, based on the cost of the system, you're going to get a $13,000 tax credit at the end of the year, which you could do whatever you want with, right? It's money in your pocket. You're paying so much for the solar panels, you just get all this money. And you're like, man, that sounds great. I pay a low monthly amount, and at the end of the year, I get this huge chunk of money, and I'm saving money on my energy bills. This sounds amazing, right? Who wouldn't do this? And then they'll wrap it up with, okay, to get it down there, you're going to be at $172 a month for 12 months, and we'll get into that a bit later, and that's at 1.49% APR. So it's very common for the solar companies to have their own in-house lending. So those lenders can charge whatever they want. They don't have to make money like your typical banks do. They're making money along with the solar company selling the solar panels. Because there's a huge markup on the solar panels, that's where they're making their money. They're not making their money on the loans. So they're going to circle and star 1.49%. It's like, man, that is crazy low. I would be stupid not to get it. It's so much lower than inflation. It's lower than mortgage loans were, years ago. It's a crazy deal to get so much money. A system like this may cost $50, $60, $70,000 for 1.49% APR? Tell me more good news. Value add. Buyers are going to love this because they're saving all this money, right? And by the end of all this, when they go over all the bad, they go over this good column, they go over how cheap it's going to cost you. It almost seems like if you don't sign right now, your neighbor's going to get the last one. There won't be any more panels left because who wouldn't accept this deal? And you can't let them out the door before you sign on the dotted line. That's the kind of excitement and sense of urgency that this all builds. But when you take a step back, again, we need to get the average month, and then okay, so now your average energy bill is going to be $152, but that $152 is in addition to the panel payment. So now we're at $324 a month. Okay, $324 a month is better than $485, but it's only slightly better than the total you're paying. So wait a minute, when you really take a step back and work out all the numbers, okay, as energy costs rise, you will see more of a benefit, but at least in the short term, in the next 3-5 years, you're really not seeing that much of a savings. And then, oh, by the way, if you look down here, there's some fine print. Total loan amount is $67,342 amortized over 25 years. Monthly payments to increase to $276 a month after 12 months and $341 after 36 months. So they'll have you only focus on the introductory monthly payment and not the subsequent increase in payments, which you'll really need to actually pay off the total balance in the 25 years. So when it comes to the purchase of solar panels, you really have to make sure that you're fully aware of all of the numbers and you're comparing apples to apples, and you're making sure that all the data they're getting is based on real world data. And honestly, the projections, I think it's pretty safe to say that energy costs are going to rise in the future, but if you can tell me anyone who knows exactly by how much, I'd love to hear it. I don't have a crystal ball, and neither do the solar salesman, and neither do you. So make sure that if you do decide to get the panels, which is a great asset for some homeowners, especially if you plan on living in that home for at least 5 years, I would say. For sure, at least 5 years. And if you have high energy costs, if you have a 3, 4, 5,000 square foot home, if you have a pool, if you have very low tree coverage, so you're having to cool a lot of hot air during the summer, maybe a 2-story, there's a lot of factors that can make it totally worth your while and a great money saver. But you have to make sure you do the math, you do your homework, and above all else, negotiate. Here's the last thing I'll leave you with. The little secret that they won't tell you is that their markups are crazy high. Solar panel markups are in the 40 to 50% range. That means that you can negotiate the total cost down significantly if you can build leverage to do so. If you just are a lot of times patient, let them go out the door and maybe call them back in a week. Hey, would you be willing, instead of doing it for $65,000, could we do this for $55,000? Instead of doing this for $40,000, can we do it for $30,000? And just follow up until they get to a point, especially during the winter months, where they're like, okay, I can sell that system to you for that. So do your due diligence, do your homework, and do some negotiating. At the end of the day, it'll save you a lot of money and a potential huge headache if you plan on selling your house in the near future.